Hey yo, and welcome to this. And first of all, I know it's weird I'm making a video, but I just feel compelled to, as this is a very big weekend in the world of combat sports, as I personally myself had a big combat sports weekend with these same two companies. Hopefully for one of them it goes much better than the previous weekend, and that's basically what this video is about. Because this weekend in the world of mixed martial arts is Bellator's very first pay-per-view. And I think I'm probably the only guy, at least really interested still to see how it goes. I mean, I was obviously very invested once I found out they were doing the pay-per-view. Do I think $45 to do this, charge you for this show it's a little much for a first-time show in my opinion, but they're going to ride the wave and see how that goes. But I think this is a very interesting show because I'm more intrigued to see how it turns out for the company. I really hope it goes well for Bellator. I hope it does, 75,000 buy rate. Obviously that's maybe reaching really high, but I hope it goes there because I feel the world of MMA needs that competition aspect. I mean, we almost had it with Elite XC, but they were just one of the most mismanaged companies in the history of ever. Almost had it with Affliction, but they were just spending too much money, and then the Josh Barnett steroid thing for the Athletic Commission, and that just killed them for sure right then and there. Strikeforce was there, so much so UFC bought them to end any hope of competition. With Bellator, different ball game because they have, if they wanted to, UFC wanted to buy them, got to go through hoops and ladders, but whatnot. So Bellator here is in a very interesting state because they're about to do their very first pay-per-view. And I don't know if there's that much buzz for the show as there should be. I think there's a lot of intrigue, maybe a lot of curiosity. Should I get it? I think a lot of people should. I think if you're a fan of MMA, I think it's a once-in-a-lifetime experience because how many times are we really going to get to see another promotion that's not UFC on pay-per-view? I mean, I've always been a fan of the underdog promotions. Like, when Elite XC was the first to be on primetime, I made sure to rush home to see him on CBS. Or, when Strikeforce was making the run, or Affliction, whatnot. A lot of these companies have tried to make a run at the UFC, and I think Bellator is the best shot because they have a lot of bankroll behind them with the Viacom deal. I just really hope people go out of their way. Now, for hardcore fans, I think the main event, which was supposed to be Eddie Alvarez versus Michael Chandler, is killed a lot of that since that's no longer happening. But I think Will Brooks' Michael Chandler fight is just as good. I think there could be a lot of potential. It's just a lot of people don't know about Will Brooks. I think the Will Brooks story, if they could really promote that, I know they had only a week to do it, would be very great. And if a lot of people could get behind that, I think it would be fantastic for the company. I mean, Michael Chandler's going to bring a great fight. I think Will Brooks is going to bring a great fight. And hopefully that thing's a barn burner. But now the main event becomes Quentin Rampage Jackson, King Mo Lawal. A fight that I think a lot of people that have been following the sport for a while have kind of hoped to see at one point. Now we're finally getting it. And I think the build-up that both these guys have done, the hype they've done for it has been tremendous. It's just, I think a lot of people are downplaying it because it's not a UFC show. It's Bellator. So I hope a lot of people will go see it. And I think Rampage and King Mo are going to put on a dynamite fight. I mean, for King Mo, I think King Mo's got to win this fight because he's kind of been basically a bust in Bellator. A lot of hype coming with him coming into Bellator after he got released from the UFC. And, Rampage, he has had some wins in Bellator, 2 knockouts. I mean, the Joey Beltran one I'll give you because Joey Beltran has a tough chin. But Christian Mpambu he was one of the softest champions of the whole thing because he was champion of Bellator's 205 division and lost a non-title fight to, I can't remember who it was to, but he did lose the fight to a veteran, like a journeyman fighter. I can't remember his name at the moment. It'll come to me, or someone hopefully will in the comments section of Twitter remind me, and I'll just kick myself in the head. But I really hope people go out of their way to see it, and I think there's also a star-making potential for Alexander Shlemenko. He's fighting Tito Ortiz. I mean, this is for Tito. We've heard the story over and over again. It's like the boy who cried wolf. Do we really believe he's back? Because I've heard that too many times to really put a lot of emphasis in. But for Shlemenko, if he gets the win, I really think, it's a big name he's beaten. And I think Shlemenko is probably, other than Eddie Alvarez, the best fighter the promotion has. and I think a lot of people would really get some good eyes. So I hope people go out of their way to see it. It's just, I mean, from the experience I had at Bellator last weekend, a lot of people were there only because it was fights. I think if you had had like mom and pop's fights, they would have gone still. A lot of people didn't know a thing about Bellator or the promotion. Didn't even know the fights were happening this weekend. Just went because there were fights, and then basically only wanted to see the Canadians, and then they left after the prelims, and we're sticking around. I mean, also granted they left because the show sucked. Let's be real. Some terrible fights from Bellator, and I was really hoping that show would be very well because I knew the crowd would be good. A Canadian crowd for anything sports, I think, is fantastic, and I thought they were going to be there, but the fights didn't live up to the potential the crowd had for them. I think that hurt Bellator as the final like show for you got to see our fighters and then, you know, spend $45 to watch our fights. So hopefully things go well for them because I really think MMA needs competition. UFC is still around doing really well business-wise, and they're branching out into, you know, a new market this year, Mexico, and expanding still with Dana trying to prove that, you know, UFC is going to be bigger than soccer. So, I mean, they're taking those steps, but I just feel UFC isn't the same hype-wise or intrigue-wise as it was, you know, 2 years ago, even 1 year ago. Just unless Ronda Rousey's fighting, are you really that like casual fan? Or are you really that interested? So hopefully people go out of their way to see this show. I really hope for the best for them because competition is always best for business. And right now, that's really what MMA needs. I haven't been this intrigued in a show in a long time, probably since UFC Starrcade show from the last year with Rousey and Tate 2 and Weidman Silva 2. So I haven't been this intrigued in a MMA show in a long time, and I really hope things go well for Bellator because if things go well, I think the MMA landscape can really exceed because, I mean, Bellator really should be feeling a lot better about themselves, but it just seems like, you know, they're missing opportunities to sign certain guys that come out. I know there's also a World Series of Fighting, but I feel like that's the definition really right now of like, that's like a CZW to an MMA promotion. So, I mean, hopefully things go well for Bellator. And I think the other thing that Bellator has going for them is they have network deals. They're on Spike. Spike's putting a lot of emphasis on them, as well as the cable companies are putting a lot of emphasis on them since the networks launched, and you know UFC has Fight Pass, and probably next year, or at least in 2 years, we'll probably try to steal what WWE is doing when having their own shows on their network, so they can reap 100% of the profit instead of like probably what like 60-40 of it. So hopefully people go out of the way to see Bellator. I think the fighters are going to realize the situation of how bad this company needs these fights to go well, and they will live up to them. And I think hopefully for Bellator things go their way and we don't get another Affliction, Elite XC, or Strikeforce nonsense. So that's it for me. I am out. Peace.